All right, we're here with Coach Leiker following a rough outing against Iowa Western. We fell 57-14. Kind of go through the game with us from a coach's standpoint.
Well, obviously, the final score wasn't what we were anticipating, maybe expecting, but first quarter, it was a pretty good ball game for a quarter, 7-7. One of our mistakes, we get a defensive turnover inside the 15, and we can't get points, and then we miss a field goal, just a chip shot. I mean, that's gotta stop. We got to start connecting on those.
Especially a team like that, if you have an opportunity to put points up, you have to.
You got to get points. And then as the game wore on, we talked about it, that it was just too easy. They just found a couple of things that were like they were playing a 11 on 5. It's what it felt like, because they were just operating one or two little things, and it was working. So they didn't have to try a lot of stuff because we weren't able to shut down any of the things that they were trying to do. So
right.
Then we lost our quarterback. That was our starter, Jack Diamond, who now he's out, I believe, for the year with ligament damage in his shoulder. So we were with our third guy, and you just don't get a chance to put enough reps into the threes. Even though he was a 2 this game, he got reps. But to ask him to go in there when we're not able to get stops, and then we weren't able to
get anything going
offensively, as far as him being a spark,
But he showed a couple of plays where he has a pretty decent arm.
Yeah.
Just kind of like what you were saying, progressions and everything like that. You kind of maybe game.
Yeah, just not
game time,
not game experienced, and he's a redshirt freshman. He hadn't played but just a few snaps, I think, against Butler for a little bit, and then against Iowa Western he got a lot of snaps. But the passing game, we didn't protect very well. I mean, we got to be better at the O-line play. We got to be better everywhere. I mean, we go from 1 week where we were excited about things, and now offensively we still haven't really done a lot to help ourselves, by moving the chains and getting the ball in the end zone. But at the same time, when both sides of the ball aren't getting things done, it turns into a 40-point loss, and that's just not something you're prepared to accept, even though it happened. But all we can do now is try to get the kids back to believing that they can go out and execute and win a ball game. We play Fort Scott, and they'll be as good a team as we'll have seen, because they've had some rest. They've played some people fairly tough, even though they came up short. But we've got to go out and execute, or it's just things aren't going to happen the way we want them to.
Kind of just spinning your tires, if not.
Exactly.
What as a coach, and especially in the situation that you're in, how do you kind of rein in the guys? Kind of like you said, keep them motivated to keep going and keep playing hard.
Well, I've got to count on the assistants that have known these kids and known their offensive and defensive plans for what they've installed through the year so far. Good 2 months in now, and it's stuff that during camp they had installed, and then so they can have communication with the players about the things we did well, the things that we didn't do well, the things, missed assignments here and there. I've been trying to just help, somewhat keep, because they're frustrated. Players are frustrated.
Of course.
You got a lot of, like, receivers that, initially we're going to get a chance to catch balls, and then you're down to your third and quarterback, and it's not happening, So, yeah, I haven't been through one of these, and even walking in on it like I did, it's still, I've got to let the coordinators do the schemes that they've got, because they've proved that they can put together packages. I mean, we beat Iowa Western last year up there, so it's the same coaches, different personnel maybe, but when we had a different quarterback too, and then we're down to our third, it wasn't like our starter was in the game, the one we chose to start. So
completely different game if we have
at least you got what you consider as your best guy. You know that. But we were down to the third now because of just injuries, and it's football. You can't moan about it. We got to go play. We got to get a fourth guy ready now, because our third guy's got a family issue at home, and so he won't be here this weekend. Right. So we're looking at another young man now.
Right. So I mean, with that being said, what? And I don't want to tip any cards or anything, but does the game scheme change for you versus kind of how you were talking about running and stuff? And
well, you kind of have to play to the kid's strength, and all of them have different things that they were probably recruited here for. But the young man we're going to play, or at least play some going into the weekend for sure, is I hadn't played yet. Right. I mean, really, other than a little bit of wildcat, just running stuff. So we're unsure. We hope he sparks, the opportunity that he gets, that he carries the team with him, and
I mean, you never know. It could be a spark plug, and it could be something that you're like, okay.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, we're trying to play to his strengths that he does well, so it does change it some just to. But again, if the O-line's not doing what they need to do, then you don't get a chance to do much of anything on an offensive football team. So those guys got to take over a little bit and come off the ball and be physical. And I mean, there's plenty of size there. We just got to identify who we got and go get them, and not be passive about it and worried about, am I going to the right guy? Because we had some missed assignments that led to problems too. So they've got to get that stuff all squared away so they can go out there and play a good football game.
It's kind of like Colin Coward said the other day. Talking about the Cowboys, offensive line's great, and they have the recipe. With the running game and stuff. If the offensive line takes care of their business, Justin Henderson is able to do what he does best. He and Ryan Williams are able to run the ball, which opens up, opens up everything for you.
Yeah, it's much easier to call a game for Tony or OC. It's much easier for everyone when things are happening positive. And like I said, it's frustrating for everybody when it doesn't happen the way you practice it, and the other team's running up and down the field. Right. And all of a sudden we got a whole bunch of coaches on the boundary that think, we need to be doing this. And
a lot of chiefs.
That's just what happens, and it gets frustrating for the kids over there. But we've tried to keep them positive about, hey, you play, we'll do the best we can to get you in the right position. But we're a little bit handcuffed with the QB spot, so we've got to try to find a way to move the chains, get first downs, keep our D off the field. But that just wasn't happening quick enough, and then we were giving up too many, big chunk plays for them, and so and all in all, it just turns into a tough night. Right. Well, and I give credit to Iowa Western. I mean, they're a quality club, so you got to give them credit on what they came in and did, coming off a loss. Yeah, we were coming off a win off a bye week, and I mean, one of the coaches just thought we looked flat and tired. Like that was too long of a wait. I mean, to get
especially
back
after
on
an
the
emotional
field again.
win.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot plays into those things, and we just don't know if you're doing enough, if you're overdoing it. Right. So,
right. You mentioned on the sideline. I think being at the game, sometimes when a team doesn't perform the way the fans might think they should be, you get a lot of coaches in the stands too. So it might be kind of nice to get out away from, go on the road, go against Fort Scott, somebody right up the road a couple hours away. That might be kind of nice for you guys.
Well, I mean, if we worried about all that junk, then I wouldn't be in it, because I've been in the. And I'm not saying I know all these kids and recruited them, but the game isn't any different. It's still about putting points on the board, getting first downs, taking care of the ball, and so on. But, yeah, I mean, you're going to have people that want to see a successful night, and when it doesn't happen, it's just human nature to say whatever. But again, when you're down to a third cue, I mean, you don't just throw plays in there that he's not very good at or hadn't done very well. And
Right.
This isn't Madden.
Then it looks
Exactly, and that's
yeah.
what gets people, I think, tripped up a lot. Is
Yeah.
they think it's easy, and there's so
No,
many things.
I mean, and the thing that is always was the toughest was dealing with
Yep.
what the kids are thinking, because there's a million things going on. This was our life, coaching. I mean, we know how it's supposed to look, and they get a couple hours a day, and even then sometimes they're not always tuned in, so, but you got to be, if you're going to have any success, you got to have the right things going on, at least but as a team sport, you got to have 11 of them doing it.
Right.
And if you have one breakdown, it usually turns into a no gain or a loss or a turnover or something. So you need everybody on the same page. And you can get away with doing something on the right side of the field, and the person on the left side's not as strong as you'd like, but that guy's not going to run all the way across the field and make the tackle. He's going to be down already, but still that's the point you try to make with him is, hey, every play, everybody do their part, do your job. And if you all do your job, there's a chance you'll have a successful play. Then you do enough of that, you'll have a successful game.
Right.
So you try to break it down like that. But again, it's just a bunch of words to the ball players. They got to go out and do it.
They got to believe it. They have to.
They got to go out and do it. Yep.
One of the things that you kind of touch base on, as coaches, we see how the game's supposed to be played, and a lot of these guys, especially nowadays, 15, 20 minutes after the game, it's out of their head, but we have to live with it as coaches. And it just reminds me of Augie said down in Texas after a game is, you guys are going to forget about it, but I have to live with this game. And a game like this is going to stick with a coach for a while. It's something that you're going to remember.
Yeah. Just the way we remembered the Butler game, and but as days go by, and there's another game, then what have you done lately? That's where it comes. That's where it goes. And in football, you get one shot a week.
Yeah.
In basketball or baseball, you get at least 2 to 3 days in a week to try to play, and you get it, wipe it out a little bit earlier if possible. But I mean, it's those two ball games were probably two of the tougher, better teams in the country, and to say we ended up 1-1, if you just look at the overall record,
it's positive.
We're positive there,
Yeah.
but and if we looking back, if you take care of Hutch when you're ahead, you're sitting 2-2, not 1-3, and hopefully you can get on a little roll. And we're 1-1 in conference play, so there's still stuff out there if we can just find a groove, offensively, a kind of what we are. And we don't really know what we are
Get
still.
a little bit of identity with it.
Try to, because of when you rotate different QBs because of injury or whatever, it's just tough to get a groove on what you really are. You a throwing team? Are you a running team? Are you a good mix? We don't really know any of those answers at this point.
Right.
Still trying to find that,
So it's almost like training camp again.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, Fort Scott hadn't played for a couple weeks now, and for all we know, they changed their whole offense and defense. You
Right.
know? I mean,
Right.
that's a weird deal when there's 2 byes in a row. You don't see that ever,
Yeah.
No.
And then you count the week of preparation for this game, so it's 3 weeks.
Right.
And so
3
they've been
weeks to watch.
watching stuff that we've been doing, and so we'll have to be ready for anything, for this one. So that's why I'm saying it's not easy,
Right.
especially when you're struggling as a group yourself, trying to find an identity, and then you got to go play a team that people just assume, well, they're 0-3, this should be a win.
It's not as easy.
The new rules with all the athletes. Everybody's got athletes too now, so it's not about recruiting the state of Kansas like it used to be. You could win a few battles there, and your Kansas kids that are playing may be better than the other teams if you collectively have a good group, but that's not even the case now because of the change in rules. So everybody's got some pretty quality athletic players, so that's another issue that now it comes down to executing what you're doing.
Right.
And that's the part where we struggled last week.
Kind of turning a note to a positive. I mean, Vernon Dasher and Marcus Scott both had another interception. Vernon Dasher returned it for a touchdown. Tell us a little about Vernon. I mean, he's from the outside looking in, he looks like he's the leader of the defense.
Well, I think they're both third-year guys, I
Yes,
believe,
sir.
and so that's important. Now, it's pretty amazing that those guys have interceptions from the defensive end spots. It's not the corners of the secondary that are getting balls that are being deflected or caught. But they're both very athletic, and so Vernon just been a quality kid since I've known him anyway, from which was really last year. I had a chance to sit with him at the Distinguished Alumni Luncheon, and that was the first time I really even knew who he was. But coming back this year, obviously knowing who a few of those guys are, Marcus the same way. They're just good athletes. So, we need good games from those guys every week. But again, we need all 11 to do to help, in the big picture. And they did. I mean, they were getting pressure on the quarterback. That's the D line. They got a deflection last week that turned into an pick six on a 11-yard return type of thing. So we had some other people step up. It just the recipient's the one that catches it.
Right.
But the other guys are the ones putting pressure to force that type of thing. So there's still more people involved than just the one that gets the credit for scoring on a touchdown. But that's what we need, and it's not going to happen every down. But we're not going to we can't expect that every game to get a defensive score. But
I think we're leading the nation in defensive scores.
Are we?
I think so. Yes, sir.
Well, we got to do some better things offensively to help that process as well.
Right.
Of course, if you're scoring, that means you're right back on the field again. So when it comes to reps and time on the field, that number is going to be skewed a little bit anyway. But they had some great moments last week. That defense had some moments.
In Cooper Lee, another outstanding game. 11 punts for 510 yards, 5 inside the 20, and 4 fair catches. He was the Jayhawk Player of the Week for special teams. And
the average, I think, was what, 44, 45 again?
45, 46 for that game.
He's having a heck of a year. Now, he's kicking it way too often. Now, we know that, but when we've counted on him, he's only, I think he only had one ball that got away from him, like a little off the side of his foot, but he at the same time, we're going to give him a chance to kick some field goals this weekend because we've had trouble.
Have to.
We've had trouble. Both of our, Cooper and Tristan both have strong legs, but the objective is to kick it between the uprights, and we just haven't been as positive there as what we need to be when we get a chance to knock something through. So, I was talking to you earlier, Coach, about Marcus and Cooper should have been players of the week a week ago or 2 weeks ago against a quality opponent. But SIDs and different things vote, and so they got outvoted or something. But the couple of guys they picked had played a prep school.
Right.
And, that's just not the same. And a big win like that for this school, and he dropped 4 or 5 balls inside. It was almost the same scenario that he punted it, but they got it right this time at least.
Absolutely.
So that was good for him.
And that's a little skewed, I mean, like we were talking about. I mean, you play a prep school and you blow them out 91-0. It kind of skews the stats. I don't know how. I mean, not to throw shade on anybody, but I don't know how you praise that when you have other guys like Marcus Scott and Cooper Lee, not to be homers or anything like that, but they put up great numbers and they kind of get overlooked. And then it's a game like this where Cooper Lee gets his recognition. So
well, and in a tough loss, blowout loss, whatever you want to call it, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, he had that kind of game in a game that made a difference 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and against a top 5 team every year in the country.
Yep.
And
against Butler. Yep.
SIDs have to take that into consideration when they're voting because the caliber of ball players are different than a prep school. But, and that's not my call, but I'm just like, come on, guys.
It's mind-boggling.
Really, I mean, but Cooper hopefully will get some national attention.
He has put up for it, so I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely well deserving. I mean,
Right.
2 outings in a row where he's averaging, 45, 46 per punt.
Well, and that's on a lot of it, and unfortunately, it's been on a lot of attempts. But for punters, if you punt twice in one game and both of them are good kicks, that's good average.
Mm-hmm.
But when you punt as many times as he's had to do, be consistent on that basis all over and over again. He did a very good job
Yeah.
against Western. I mean, because it was early, it was a close game, and that field position
Mm-hmm.
mattered a lot, and he did an excellent job.
Yeah, he did. And we're happy to have him. That's for sure.
Yeah, he'll definitely be someone that we hang up on the wall when he leaves.
I would think so. If he can continue to have the kind of year he's having, I would think that he's going to get an opportunity to go kick beyond us, and we'll see where that goes after time goes on.
Right.
But for this year, I would sure hope that he's a candidate for a postseason award. And when it's all said and done, if he can continue to be as consistent as possible with that.
Absolutely, especially now if he does take over the field goal role.
Yeah.
you know what I
And he
mean?
did that last year. He did both last year and did a good job in both of those. But Tristan came in. He's got a great leg. He just hadn't been able to zoom in on the goalpost the way he does all week in practice. But all of a sudden, it's.
Do you think it's inexperience, or is it the yips, as baseball would say?
Yeah, I don't know, because he's been at a couple of Division I schools, and he got a little bit of work at one of them. Now, I don't know exactly what, but he shows he can make them, in practice. But when he tries to, he gets amped up or whatever, then he swings his leg across himself and he yanks it instead
Right.
of finishing with his leg up high to finish and drive it through. So I'm not a kicker, but those guys are talented.
Right.
So for him to have the struggles he's had, it's frustrating, because he's very capable of making every one of those, and he's had Tristan struggle to get off the
Right.
the snide to make one and get rolling in the right direction. So that's where we got another ball game to try it here.
Right.
Pretty soon. So.
And the bad thing is, it's 7 days before you can try
Right.
it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're midweek now, so we're getting close to the downside,
Yep.
going to the weekend, and so
Yes, sir.
we can't get here soon enough for the players and the coaches. I know.
Itching a little bit. I got it.
Yeah.
I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but heading to Fort Scott this weekend, what can you kind of tell us that, going into the game? I know we've touched on it and everything, but as a coach, what are you looking for out of your guys? And obviously a win.
Well, you have to check on them daily. Just doing the right things daily, leading up to practice, leading up to the weekend. And we've still got some youngsters that have to work on that, to get where they're supposed to be, get to study table, get to the breakfast in the morning, get to class, get to meetings on time. It's not a one-time thing, it's something you do every day, the rest of your life, to have success and not have a bunch of issues and problems, and some of them create problems for themselves, because now we're the ones that are running them after practice, or we're telling them they can't start because they haven't taken care of their business through the week. If we're not doing some of that stuff for them to help them understand, then we're not doing any service to them. So, and I know they don't want to hear it. They just soon be left alone, but
That's our jobs as coaches, is to direct
it
them.
is. I mean, and it's you just want to go out there and coach, but you got all these other things. You're counseling, you're doing all that, and that's, it goes with the job of,
Right.
working with young people. So, talking about the game itself going forward, I mean, you got to have a good week of everything, and if not, it just feels like you've left something
Right.
to where
You left something unchecked.
you haven't done everything you're supposed to do. So why are you expecting to have a great game?
Right.
Because now if you've done everything, you can at least say I've laid it all on the line, and whatever happens, I don't have to look back, and see what it was I didn't do, or how come I didn't make that play, or didn't recognize what I was supposed to see. I mean, it goes into film session, it goes to meetings, it goes to class, it goes to anything that we're asking the kids to be at. It's being responsible, being accountable, and again, it doesn't just play in football.
It's life.
So one day it will be for them, and like it was for all three of us.
Right.
You
Right.
know, you don't get your degree unless you go to school and do your homework and be where you're supposed to be. You don't get jobs if you don't show up.
Right.
And that's the analogy that we've used. But for them, that goes in one out the other a lot of times because they're not there yet.
Right.
You know? There's only been a handful you could actually see it matters to sometimes. I mean, looking back, I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
There'll be a group of them here that take care of their business and get a chance to move on. That's for sure on the sophomores that are playing. But I told them we got to play better so we can get your film out there too.
Yep.
As a team, we got to play and get coaches here to really watch it. Now they can look at Huddle all day long nowadays and find out about a kid, but I'm finding that out because I never even gave it that much thought over the last 10 years of
Right.
Right.
what's offered to them now. But
The evolution of technology.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So, no, one day at a time, guys, is what we're trying to do, and keeping them positive. And the one thing I've tried to share with them is I do not want to be hit with negativity. You know, with from any of you.
Right.
You can be frustrated. We're all frustrated, but you can't wear it outside on your sleeve, and then all of a sudden you're a guy that nobody wants to be around, and nobody dang sure wants to listen to you when you're negative, you know. So
And then no one wants to play with you.
exactly,
Yeah.
you alienate a lot of people when that starts coming out, and you're being selfish, and you know everybody would love to just be 4-0, and everybody's getting to play, and balls are flying everywhere, and touchdowns are happening. And a lot of years they have. You know, when you coach long enough, sometimes it doesn't work that way, and at least initially. So you got to keep working to try to get the thing corrected and have some success.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach, I want to thank you for coming down and then talking about it. I know wasn't the most important topic or
It wasn't the most fun to talk about
Right.
when you get beat, but
Yep.
but hopefully next week we're 2-1 in
know,
conference and we're having a much different conversation.
I'm hoping, we've got to go earn it, though. I
Right.
mean, that's what we
Right.
tell them.
Yep.
Just because of this or that, you got to go earn it.
Nothing's handed.
Exactly.
All right, thank you,
Thanks,
Coach.
Thank you,
guys.
Coach.
Yep.